Here, this is the Nike Space Hippie. Specifically, this is the Nike Space Hippie 01. So obviously, first thing to notice about the shoe is the actual box. Because this is all about sustainability and taking care of the environment, the box that the shoes are shipped in is actually the shoe box as well. In addition to this being the shipping box, they are using a plant-based ink to help lower the overall carbon footprint of the collection. All of the ink is actually used on the inside of the box, and it is like a bunch of different logos about the shoe here, and then on the end you see the information about the shoe. It's pretty cool. So they also include a bag in the box, which I didn't expect at all. It feels a lot like a recycled polyester Nike has been using. While I was in New York for the original announcement, I actually had a chance to sit down and talk to Noah Murphy Reinhartz. He works on Nike's sustainability team, and technically his title is the NXT Sustainability Leader Expert. And this is what he had to say. What does sustainability mean to Nike in the sense of footwear, and like are there like actualized results you guys are seeing from the sustainability efforts that you're making?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have a really clear focus on how we approach sustainability. So for Nike, that mission of move to zero, it's really two things at its core. It's zero carbon emissions, and zero waste. That's a goal that's way out there.
Right.
But something like this is a direct result where we say, let's look at the carbon emissions it took to make this pair of shoes and let's push that number down. That's really the focus for us.
So despite the cool look of the Nike Space Hippie, the bigger story is lowering Nike's carbon footprint, which leads me to a couple of different parts of the shoe. Let's start with the upper, which I think is turning a lot of heads. As I mentioned earlier, the shoe isn't as soft as your traditional Flyknit, and according to Noah, the upper consists of a few different materials which I believe help contribute to the shoe's overall color and stiffness. They actually call it space yarn, and it's made of 25% post-consumer t-shirts, which is essentially used or unsold t-shirts that were going to be thrown away. Another 25% is from textile scrap from the factory, and the last 50% is recycled plastic bottles, a strategy that Nike has been using for a while now. Altogether, they equal a process that has a 70% smaller footprint than recycled polyester. Traditionally, Nike uses a combination of TPU, or proprietary foam, when it comes to impact protection. But with the Space Hippie, they've abandoned that way of thinking and instead created something new they call crater foam. The foam is a blend of past Nike foams mixed with 15% Nike grind. Now, Nike grind is basically leftover soles of Nike shoes ground up together to create a new outsole. The Nike grind is basically used like a filler. In my mind, it isn't necessarily to complete the sneaker, but it does add like another element to help further the sustainability angle from Nike, and it just looks pretty intense if you want to be honest. The final aspect of the sneaker is almost hidden, the cushioning. If you're into running, you have no doubt heard about Nike Zoom X. It's Nike's most efficient technology, and it is worn on the feet of athletes that literally break human barriers. According to the brand, the foam is the lightest, it's the softest, and the most responsive foam that they offer. With the Space Hippie, Nike takes the leftover parts from when the brand makes like the Zoom Fly and the Alpha Fly and compresses those scraps together and basically makes another midsole. It's quite genius when you think about it. That same foam is actually used on the insole as well. So in addition to getting the Zoom X underfoot in the midsole, you get it directly underfoot for the insole as well. On the flip side though, this is a compressed version of the cushioning, so you aren't getting exactly the same sort of responsiveness you would get out of it if it was in its purest form. Nike says the Zoom X and the Alpha Fly has up to an 85% energy return, and I don't think you're going to experience that sort of return in the Space Hippie line, especially considering that these shoes really aren't built for performance anyway, and they're more of a lifestyle offering. On feet, the Space Hippie feels nice. I wouldn't call it any more or less comfortable than your typical shoe made out of Flyknit. One thing you do notice right away though is how light it is. The Nike IU foam they have is super lightweight, so you lose a lot of the weight you would get from like a typical midsole and outsole combination. It reminds me a lot of the feeling you get when you wear like the Nike Ultra series of Flyknit shoes like the Air Max 1. The upper isn't as soft, but the weight distribution is very similar to me. Style-wise, I think it hits all of the marks. The look is just enough outside of the norm that it retains some of the traditional DNA of Nike silhouettes, but it all feels really different because of like the unfinished edges, the odd colors, and exposed Nike grind. From Virgil to Kanye and others, the appeal of the unfinished design is having its moment right now, and I feel like the Space Hippie team tapped into that ethos with these silhouettes and really just nailed it in my opinion. On the philosophical and moral ground of the Space Hippie collection, though, I know a lot of talk has been focused on the trash aspect of the sneaker, but I think it has another angle, and that's money. Based on the makeup of these sneakers, Nike isn't really spending money on materials to make them. They're literally using scraps and materials they were going to throw away and putting them into new products and selling them. That's pretty incredible. In addition to building a shoe that is using recycled materials and that utilizes low waste, this team was able to essentially save Nike the cost of buying new materials. All right, guys, I'm Jacques Slade. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.